Okay, now, there's a band that I've been meaning to check out for many a year and haven't got round to, and that is Between the Buried and Me. And as they've just released their latest album, Automata, what's the matter? So here with their latest album, Automata I, it's Between the Buried and Me, as I said earlier. Oh. As I said in the introduction to this, I've never actually heard this band before. It's one of those names I've always been aware of. I mean, I think they formed in 2000 in North Carolina, and been going for a long time, since 2000. They've been a name I've known for a while, but they've been another band that I've never really checked out that much. So it was a pleasure to be able to finally have an excuse to check them out. Not an excuse, Nessa. Fucking stop going on. If my lack of talent makes you feel better about your own life, subscribe! I'm going to try and keep these reviews a little bit shorter for the moment, because some have been getting a bit more long-winded. Unlike this. I guess they're labelled as a progressive metal band. And understandably so. There's a lot going on with their music. They've definitely got elements of death metal and deathcore, metalcore, core. The core, the core, the core. I can't remember which general said that, but I saw that on The Sopranos. This is their 8th studio album, and it's their first since 2015's Coma Ecliptic. Now, influences wise, you can definitely hear Metallica, King Crimson, Pantera, Pink Floyd. Are you just listing bands that were on the cover album they did? No, it's from my brain! Even though I'm not familiar with the band, as soon as I heard Tommy singing, I kind of recognised the voice, because I do remember hearing him when he guested on Devin Townsend, or God, as I call him, on his Deconstruction album, Planet of the Apes, I think he was on. I just reviewed the Judas Priest album, Firepower, and they're also a band that I've never really given a chance. And I suppose one of the benefits of having of doing these sorts of albums of bands that I'm not that familiar with is I have no preconceived idea of what I'm in for when I go into it. They recorded this album last year, and I believe what happened was through the making of the album they realised that they actually had material for two albums, and the second of which is going to be released sometime later on this year. I think maybe September. I seem to remember hearing. Did they or didn't they? Automata is a concept album that revolves around the idea of being able to see into other people's dreams. I'll just quickly read out something that Tommy Rogers commented, which was, what if dreams could be broadcast for the purpose of entertainment? Could you consume the innermost thoughts of another person on screen? If you could, what does that say about an attention-starved audience? More importantly, what would become of the dreamer? So, pretty damn good concept on this album. Don't just sit there, subscribe! Now, this is only 35 minutes long. There's 6 tracks, one of which is a very, very brief instrumental piece. But there is a hell of a lot going on this album. First of all, I enjoyed this very much. Really my style musically. I did struggle with some of the vocals at times. Some of them had that kind of nasally boy kind of tone to them, but full props to this guy's vocal range. He can pretty much do everything. First song is Condemned to the Gallows. I believe there's a video for this out already, and there's all straight away, this sets the tone for what you'll hear for the rest of the album, which is that they pretty much do whatever the hell they want. I think this is like a 6-minute track, and it covers all sorts of styles in one song. Starts out with an acoustic piece that comes in with a spacey vocal before going into a mid-paced, down-picked, head-banging riff. Then we go into more death or black metal territory, vocals included. Some melodic vocals before going into death grunts again. That then goes into a glorious harmony section, guitar harmony that is. There's some great breakdown style riffing, and before returning pretty much to a same vein of which it started. It's got a kind of a Pink Floyd transition piece as well that takes us to the next song, very reminiscent of some of the transition stuff on Dark Side of the Moon. I did actually make a note of a load of the lyrics, and I'm just checking my notes now, and they all seem to have gone. Fucking keep. Track number 2 is House Organ. Vocals actually reminded me a little bit of Jonathan Davis from Korn, obviously, in parts. There's some really nice keyboard textures on this song in some of the more tranquil parts. That it almost kind of reminds me of Radiohead meets Storm Corrosion, which actually, yeah, well, makes sense to me. Fucking hell, even if I don't. The outro of this song screams of Devin Townsend to me. That sort of epic wall of sound. Next up is Yellow Eyes. This starts off like a metal version of King Crimson. Has some almost new wave of British heavy metal sections, death metal, keyboard sections, and traditional prog. Yellow, yellow, yellow. As kind of an almost Geddy Lee from Rush vocal in this. This song, more than any other on the album, I think is a real testament to Tommy. This song, more than any other, I think is a real testament to Tommy's vocal range and his prowess on this album. There's some parts of it that reminds me of Serj Tankian from System of a Down, of course. Jonathan Davis again. Is it Omar from the Mars Volta? I should really know that. Seems like a good dude. Yeah, is it Frederick or Omar from Mars Volta? Not sure if I know that, oh, God's sake. And some real Alice in Chains style vocal harmonising again, used to great effect. Really outstanding vocalist, this guy. This song's 8 minutes 40, and it really shows just how versatile and skilled the entire band are. Lot going on in 8 minutes 40 seconds. Fantastic song. Up next we have Millions. Some great melodies in this one. Millions Fly Overhead. It's got a very Steven Wilson style section in it, which reminds me of something that could have been on his The Raven That Refused to Sing album. Again, I actually wrote down a bunch of notes for the lyrics on this one, and oh god, maybe you should actually memorise the shit so you know what you're talking about. Next up is the instrumental piece that I said earlier on, and this one is called, what is it called? Gold Distance. Gold, as in the gold. This has got swathes of 80s synths I've written here, and yeah, it's got kind of a Blade Runner feel to it. Can imagine this on the Blade Runner soundtrack. Vangelis, was it? Vangelis? Vangeli. Might have been somebody just looking at me then. And finally we have Blot, which is an epic closer, coming in at over 10 minutes. Got a lot of Eastern tinged broken arpeggios. Sounded like I knew what I was talking about there. And it's full of great harmonies, as there is throughout the album. I wish I hadn't lost the goddamn lyrics. Fuck's sake. Over 10 minutes, great close to the album, and leaves you really wanting for part 2, which I'll certainly be checking out. I can't wait to get that. In case you haven't worked out, I very much dug this album. Standing at only 35 minutes long, you get a hell of a lot for it. It actually felt a lot longer than 35 minutes, but I don't mean that in a bad way. There's so much going on here. There's so much. There's so many turns in the path that upon first listen, you kind of never really know where it's going. Really well done. Very glad that I took the time out to look at this album, because I wasn't going to originally, but I am really looking forward to see what they do with the second album, and I am more than likely going to go back and check out a lot of the other albums in the discography. Great band, great album, can't wait for part 2. So that's my review of Automata Part 1 from Between the Buried and Me. Next up, I'm going to be having a review for Ministry, which should be out towards the end of the week. Americant. It's always nice to hear back from Al Jorgensen and the chaps, although... So, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, comment, share, get notifications.